Hey!
Everybody, we are back to roll
with the troll.
Hey, listen, today we are talking rock and troll stories, okay?
I love it.
We started this last week. Normally we talk about Cobra Kai and Halloween Ends and all this other shit and movies and TV, but
there are more passions than that.
There are more passions than that. So rock and troll stories is where I tell the voice of reason and the audience here a little bit about some of my favorite rock and roll stories from the past, usually the 80s and 90s and shit.
Yeah.
Do you ever know about the Axl Rose from Guns N' Roses feud with Vince Neil?
I'm vaguely aware of it, but I do not know details, so
I'm going to fill you in.
Lay it on me.
Guys, I got to tell you, this was back at a time you would never see this today. Because, you'd see little feuds, like in Twitter and shit.
Oh,
but
keyboard feuds.
Yeah, but
right?
This was a time when bands were more dangerous. Like Guns N' Roses and Motley Crue and a lot of these bands, going to one of their shows was really spontaneous. You didn't know what was going to happen. I've personally seen Axl multiple times on stage, assaulting people in the crowd, assaulting his band members. Yeah, I've seen all kinds of shit. I saw him get into a huge fight during a song with one of his bassists, post Duff McKagan. After that, they got into a little fight on stage during a song, and Axl threw the microphone at him and stormed off stage. Like,
oh my God.
Like an angry kid, like he was 5.
Yeah.
And then he came back and he badmouthed him on the mic to the whole audience.
Wow.
Like, it was great. So anyway, that's a whole nother story. But
drama.
Yeah. So lots of stuff. Motley Crue has had, for those of you who are younger and who don't know, Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses are two of probably the most legendary, just insane bands from the 80s, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to find bands that were more chaotic on stage than those two. Those two are probably the kings. And the only band these days that probably even comes close to this is Marilyn Manson, I would think. And even that, he's nowhere even really close, really. But anyway, the point is, Vince Neil, the singer from Motley Crue, if you can call him a singer, he doesn't really sing. He's just, girls. He just sounds terrible. But he was the singer of Motley Crue. Axl Rose, of course, the singer of Guns N' Roses.
Right.
Both guys are still in their bands. And in the 80s, a real big problem started with these two. It all began when Vince Neil was with his girlfriend, Charisse, who would later become his wife, I believe. And they were at one of the many MTV awards that was going on back then. And backstage, somehow, Izzy Stradlin from Guns N' Roses. So not Axl now. This was Izzy, one of the guitar players, who, by the way, was known to be like the more peaceful one of the band. Of Guns. He was supposed to be like the tame one. Yeah. Yeah. He grabbed Charisse's tits.
Oh my God.
And then supposedly like kicked her in the gut while she was pregnant.
What?
Yeah.
Like Mike Barnes style?
Yeah, like something Mike Barnes does, or any of the Karate Kid movies. Frankly, it's always somebody doing this.
Yeah. Why did he do that?
Who knows? Who knows? Those guys don't. No one was sober back then. Like nobody was ever sober. Not just when they were performing, but even like at the VMA awards and all these bullshit awards and things they're involved in. Nobody ever really could tell a coherent story afterward.
Okay.
Similar to me right now. So anyway, Vince Neil is furious now, right? He's absolutely furious.
Yeah. And,
but nothing gets to happen right then and there. Somehow, I don't know, either Vince wasn't around or he couldn't take a swing at Izzy yet. But then at a later event, and a soon after event, Vince does try to take a swing at Izzy, tries to punch him, somehow the details are unclear, but he doesn't really get through. So, you know how the lead singers are always like, they're not only the kings of the band in terms of music, they're kind of in charge of just the whole band's affairs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the lead singers tend to do most of the interviews. And
they become the face and the voice of the band.
Yeah, even when you're not talking about the band's business or music, even just their own drama and their own interpersonal problems. Well, so somehow Axl Rose feels the need to defend Izzy, his guitar player, for Izzy's assault and sexual assault as well.
Okay.
So, and again, guys, there's a billion different takes on all this. I know someone's going to say, well, wait a minute, that's not the way it happened. I'm looking at different stories from different people, and this is the totality of what I've come up with. Okay. So Axl wants to now fight Vince because I think he feels like the singers, like he doesn't want Izzy getting that much attention. Right?
Oh my God.
So and I think also because Izzy was smaller and he was less involved in the press and shit. But so now Axl really wants to fight Vince. So Vince doesn't really like. It's not an obstacle to him. He doesn't say, wait a minute, how come you're getting involved? He just goes right to it. He's like, all right, fuck you. So now these guys, for years, and I mean years. They don't actually fight. They just keep trading insults through their friends, through coworkers, through the press, Kurt Loder, MTV, everything. They're just going back and forth in different magazines and MTV, saying to the public how they want to fight each other.
Okay.
So finally, there were so many crazy back and forths forever about them both just trash talking and saying they wanted to fight. So then Vince gets on TV and he says, I want to put an end to this. And I remember I was a kid, but I just remember thinking, oh, look at that. I'm surprised he doesn't want to fight. You know what I mean? Like Vince is actually, he says on TV, he says, you know what? I just want to get past this. I want to move on and I want to put an end to this feud. And I'm thinking that's surprisingly mature. So then he says, he says, so I want to meet him. I want to put this on pay-per-view. I want to fight. His way of ending it was to finally have the I thought that was so funny. And so he wants to meet him on TV. He says, I'll do it anywhere at all. Axl kind of doubles down again, saying, okay, let's do it anywhere. But it still doesn't actually come to scheduling a fight.
Okay.
And you kind of can tell why, right?
Well, I mean, where's this going?
Well,
there's no end point.
Well, I'll put it this way. Neither one of them had anything to gain by fighting unless they knew like 99% that they were going to win, right?
Right.
Like unquestionably win where the whole public would know. Because both of these bands, their whole image was their badassery. You know what I mean? So if one of these guys, fuck it, even if, let's say, all right, you know how Will Smith hits like a girl? Okay. If these guys, one of them, let's say Axl wins, but he hits like a girl.
Yeah.
That's not a win.
Right.
To the public, right? Axl's still going to look like chicken shit.
It's a lose-lose now.
It is. The only way you can come out of this on top, no pun intended, the only way you can come out of this on top is if you truly win, totally like a man, the whole fucking thing, and have no real question about it, right?
Right.
That's the only way. Otherwise, they're taking too big a chance if they actually fought at looking like shit.
Yeah.
And having the band be humiliated, ticket sales come down, everything. I mean, like, bands, I remember when Beavis and Butthead, here's a story within a story. When Beavis and Butthead made the nerd kid Stu on the show, Stewart, wear Winger's shirt, Kip Winger says the band never sold tickets very well again after that. Like, as soon as they started making the nerd wear his shirt, ticket sales plummeted. He had to sell his house. He couldn't afford the mortgage. Like,
oh my God.
Yeah, seriously. So what I'm saying with that is, once you're embarrassed and you're really like upstaged or in any way just emasculated.
Yeah.
It's really hard for a rock band to come back
especially on
from
pay-per-view.
that. Yeah, right? With the recording, everybody can see it over and over again. They can rewind 1,000 times. So I think both bands, both singers especially, knew like this is not a good idea. Yeah. Meanwhile, over in the Van Halen camp, they're not helping at all. Sammy and the late Eddie Van Halen, those guys, they were getting so involved in this that you'd almost think they had like a stake in the game. Like they had a dog in the fight. They kept saying they wanted to see it, and they started trying to set it up with promoters. No. At one point, Sammy Hagar said, if we can't set it up with promoters, I'll pay to have them fight in my front yard.
Wow.
And he actually wanted Sammy went as far as he was talking to local police to see if he could make it work without them breaking it up. Yeah, he really wanted this to happen.
Wow.
He tried everything.
Sammy.
It was funny to me how involved Van Halen was getting in this because by the early 90s, probably, I think it was the early 90s at this point. I love when bands fight. It's the funniest thing in the world. But yeah, seriously, Van Halen was getting interviewed more about it than these guys were. Wow. It was coming up in all these interviews where Sam was like, I'm really trying to get those guys to fight in my front yard, man. Yeah, I want to see if we can do it. I mean, it was just getting ridiculous. Pay-per-view was getting all these phone calls. It was just fucking ridiculous.
Wow.
And in the end, everything just ended up kind of cool. I think the last thing that I ever heard about it was that this was once we got into the age of Twitter. So we're talking like 15 years later now, probably, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But finally, Vince Neil tweeted something because he was pissed that Axl won Best Singer or something. And so Vince tweeted some bullshit. So these guys probably don't really like each other, but at the end of the day.
So, I mean, was there any resolution? Did they ever come to anything?
No. It was nothing. It was 15 years of trash talk. 15 years of trash talk and speculation like what I'm doing now. And just people talking about it. In the end, it was probably good press for both bands. It made both bands ironically look tougher. They fight all the time. But in reality, neither band should have any pride in this whatsoever. It took 15 years for nothing to happen. Now they're both really overweight, old men. Neither one can really sing all that well anymore.
Can you imagine their managers and PR people? Just what a quandary.
I think it would have been funny since it turned into a battle of the singers. Wouldn't it have been funny if everybody took an opponent, like maybe like one of the backstage, the lighting guy from one band has to wants to fight the lighting guy from the, you know what I mean?
Jeez.
Everybody has to pair up.
They could do a battle of the bands.
No, just they each have to slug it out to the death.
No, I know.
With their counterpart. Idea. Anyway, I don't know. This whole thing was just funny to me. I thought it was funny. These days, I don't think this would really happen this way.
No.
I think there'd be a little exchange of words back and forth, but nobody would even remotely talk about, like, did you ever hear that in rock and roll anymore? People actually talking about wanting to fight or do a pay-per-view or anything like that? I just don't think it would happen.
Fun times.
This was for the 80s and the 90s, and then that was it. I think by even the mid to late 90s, this kind of thing was just not happening anymore. So, and you really don't get, singers like this or band members like this anymore. Everyone's a little bit more sanitized now.
Yeah. They get into word fights, but that's about it.
I think the most aggressive thing they do now is they try to force vax you if you want to buy tickets to their show. Yeah. I mean, that's like Rage Against the Machine. That was supposed to, like, their name is Rage Against the Machine. And they're so like, yeah, we want to be fuck you. We won't do what you tell us. We're going to do our own thing. We were our own people. And they're like, hey, I want to get a ticket to Rage. We're going to need to see your papers, please. We need to make sure that you've had the most recent jabs. Like, what are you're afraid of getting people sick at your rock and roll show?
They've missed the whole point of their
name. They don't get the whole I mean, that's about as dangerous as a rock band gets now. So very different era. But anyway, I'd love it if maybe in the next few years, I mean, both these singers, Vince and Axl, are still going. They're still touring. I mean, so much for the fucking Motley Crue. Remember how they were supposed to retire? And they made that big deal years ago. They said, this is it. We're signing a contract. We're never coming back. Well, they're back.
Yeah.
So, I mean, both singers are out there. Maybe they'll finally duke it out. Maybe that'll be what it comes to. So anyway, guys, look, thanks for checking out the video. I hope you enjoyed this little rock and roll story.
Hit the like button.
Let us know in the comments if you want us to do more videos like this, because I know, like, this whole rock and roll thing doesn't really fit the scope of the channel usually. So let us know if you want more or less of this bullshit. And yeah, click subscribe, do the whole thing. We'll see you for tomorrow's video, okay?
Yeah.
Later.